There are some things you can only discover with a backyard telescope, like this glowing blob that turned out to be an entirely new comet, or this other glowing blob that turned out to be a black hole. And no, I'm not just saying that to make you click this video. These are genuinely things that anyone can discover with their own backyard telescope. And it turns out these discoveries, or at least the data needed to make them, often start out looking like complete garbage. Like this image of Comet Neos from 2020 taken by the Japanese Yoko spacecraft. It looks pretty terrible, right? But then astronomers got the idea to stack it with a bunch of other images taken at slightly different times. And when they did, what do you know? Suddenly there's this really bright, beautiful comet. So even though the data itself is old and from a completely different spacecraft than the other images, this composite image ended up being so iconic it was featured on the cover of National Geographic. And it was all thanks to citizen scientists. The people who took the original photo were untrained astronomers, and neither were most of the people who took the other images. They were just regular folks who wanted to capture a cool view of the cosmos from their backyards. And citizen science is how all of us non-experts can contribute to real scientific discovery. And it turns out we've been doing this for decades now. Take the globular cluster in GC 6397, for instance. Back in 1999, someone noticed something strange while looking through data collected by the Hubble Space Telescope. There was this one star that seemed to be orbiting around the center of the globular cluster way too fast. Astronomers had already collected data on this cluster more than once before, but somehow no one had noticed anything unusual until 1999. This time around, someone took note of the weird star, and by 2004, that very same globular cluster had been photographed again by Hubble. This time, astronomers were prepared. They knew exactly where to look and what to look for. They were able to confirm the weird star was indeed going around the center of the cluster faster than any star they'd seen there before. By studying its trajectory, they were able to use gravity to confirm that this speedy star had a planet more than twice the mass of Jupiter orbiting it. This was the first exoplanet ever discovered around a star in a globular cluster. A pretty rare feat, considering how crowded and gravitationally intense globular clusters are. If the first person hadn't noticed that star's peculiar motion, none of that would have happened. And they only noticed it because someone uploaded their Hubble image to a website called Hubble's Heritage, which was basically the original image-sharing site for astronomy nerds. It was literally just a picture someone thought was cool. Of course, you don't need a Hubble telescope to get started with citizen science. You can do it right from your backyard. Take Comet C 2022A3, aka the Green Comet. For most of its journey, this comet looked pretty unremarkable, just a faint blob in the sky. But starting in February 2023, astronomers started noticing it was glowing green. By March, they had confirmed that it was glowing due to the chemical activity of diatomic carbon. That may sound super obscure and specialized, but it's actually the sort of thing that might be totally missed by an astronomer focused on studying comets. It takes all kinds of people to study the universe. Sometimes you need someone who's never studied comets before to come along and notice something new. And that's why when you zoom out far enough, the history of astronomy is basically just a history of citizen science. Just think about it. Before Galileo, the best telescope anyone had used was their eyes. Galileo was the first person to use a telescope to systematically observe the heavens. And he wasn't even the first person to invent the telescope. He just happened to be the first person to point it at the stars and see what was up there. Before that, we didn't even know what we didn't know. And since then, telescopes have gotten bigger and better and more advanced, meaning that ordinary folks with just a little curiosity and some free time can make extraordinary discoveries. All of our ideas about the size and shape and age of the universe began with someone looking up and wondering. And it continues today with people still looking up and wondering. So if you want to join in on this nearly 400-year-old tradition, all you need to do is head outside and look up. And if you want to get fancy, you can download some image processing software and start stacking some images. Never know what you might find. Speaking of looking up, you should look up to the amazing team of researchers who made this episode possible. Special shout out to our collaborators at the Royal Observatory Greenwich for helping us bring this episode to you. And of course, a huge thank you to all of our patrons for supporting this channel and making it possible for all of us to look up at the stars and wonder.